What does it take for one of Hollywood's most positive, optimistic stars finally say, enough? For decades, Goldie Hawn smiled and kept her peace, even when male colleagues dismissed her abilities, cut her off mid-sentence, or reduced her to a punchline. Now, she's ready to name 6 names that defined her toughest lessons in Hollywood. These weren't explosive feuds. These were slow-burning battles, full of subtle digs that added up over time. And the way she responded may tell us more about resilience than any tabloid headline ever could. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Number 1. Chevy Chase's volatile ego. Imagine walking onto a set built for laughs, only to find the atmosphere weighed down with tension. That's what Goldie Hawn faced when she teamed up with Chevy Chase. On screen, their chemistry looked effortless. Off-screen, it was anything but. Instead of working with her sharp timing, Chase often went off-script, tossing in improvised lines designed to grab attention. What might seem like harmless comedy to an audience disrupted the rhythm she'd carefully crafted. The real struggle unfolded between takes. Crew members noticed how Chase dismissed directions or waved off questions, creating an environment where others were hesitant to speak up. Goldie often stood waiting, her cues pushed aside while Chase searched for another punchline to center himself. It was a reminder of how even established women could be sidelined by louder voices claiming control of the spotlight. Still, Goldie kept her focus. She never allowed the conflict to spill onto the finished product. But after filming Wrapped, she drew a quiet line. Every sequel offer that came her way was turned down. For her, preserving dignity mattered more than extending a franchise. Number 2. Bill Hudson's betrayal at home. Not every man who left a mark on Goldie's life came from a film set. At home, the person who caused her the deepest wounds was Bill Hudson. Their marriage began with promise. 2 young, attractive entertainers who seemed destined for a glittering future together. But the charm that attracted her soon unraveled into a pattern of letdowns. Infidelity, arguments, and a growing sense of resentment began to erode what once looked like a stable union. When the marriage collapsed, Bill didn't just walk away from Goldie. He distanced himself from their children too. Kate and Oliver Hudson grew up with lingering questions about a father who chose absence. The damage wasn't only tabloid drama. It shaped how Goldie thought about family. She became determined that her children's home would be a place of stability, even if that meant shielding them from disappointment by raising them without him at the center of their lives. Instead of public battles or endless accusations, Goldie chose quiet strength. She moved forward, focusing on resilience and love. Yet that silence carried a price. The truth of his neglect went largely unspoken. Number 3. Mel Gibson's charm in question. There was a time when Mel Gibson seemed untouchable in Hollywood. His films dominated the box office, his face filled magazine covers, and studios chased after his name to anchor major projects. But while audiences saw charisma, Goldie Hawn felt something different. She spotted early signs of behavior that didn't sit right with her. And for a woman who had built her career on instinct, those red flags mattered. When conversations with Gibson began, they often started smoothly. He was charming, animated, and made sure people laughed. But as the talks stretched on, his tone could shift. Goldie noticed how her ideas were waved away or quickly overshadowed, as if her perspective didn't carry weight. This was the kind of casual dismissal that chips at confidence, the unspoken reminder that some men in power didn't see her as an equal partner in the creative process. Rather than call him out, she made a quieter choice. She stepped back. By simply refusing to share space with energy that conflicted with her values, Goldie protected her peace and kept control of her own narrative. Number 4. Warren Beatty and Hollywood sabotage. Warren Beatty didn't just act in movies. He embodied Hollywood power. By the time Goldie Hawn crossed paths with him, his reputation wasn't only about being a leading man. He was also known for how much influence he carried behind the scenes. To many, he looked untouchable. But to Goldie, working with him came at too high a cost. When she refused the attention he directed her way, both in personal advances and professional offers, the reaction was not an open confrontation. Instead, it came in whispers. Beatty didn't shout or slam doors. He leaned on subtle suggestions. Comments quietly passed to producers or colleagues painted Goldie as difficult or hinted she wasn't worth the trouble. A single remark like that could stick. And in an industry built on trust, those shadows followed her into rooms before she even arrived. Goldie never tried to win him back or campaign for approval. She leaned on her steady reputation and kept moving forward. Years later, when their paths crossed again at an awards event, she needed only silence and distance to make her point. Number 5. Woody Allen's cold collaboration. Woody Allen's name carried a certain prestige in Hollywood. Critics praised his films as smart, layered, and full of depth. For many actors, working under him was seen as a career highlight. But for Goldie Hawn, it felt different. She quickly sensed that Allen's much-admired intellect acted less like an invitation and more like a wall. Charm that dazzled others came across to her as cold, almost dismissive. Instead of feeling like part of a creative exchange, she felt boxed into a narrow role that left little room for her voice. His directing style only confirmed that sense. Allen preferred total control, often brushing past actors' instincts as if they were distractions rather than contributions. On set, Goldie found herself being shaped into a concept rather than treated as a collaborator. To an outsider, it might look like respect for his singular vision. To her, it looked like being reduced to surface value. It didn't take a public fallout to make her choice. She quietly stepped back, never pursuing another chance to work with him. For Goldie, silence was the clearest boundary she could set. Number 6. Oliver Reed's public outburst. Oliver Reed wasn't the kind of man who blended quietly into a room. If others in Hollywood dismissed with whispers or sideways comments, Reed made his presence felt with noise. He was infamous for his public drunkenness, unpredictable temper, and a love for spectacle that often crossed into outright humiliation. For Goldie Hawn, who valued control and professionalism, encounters with Reed were like walking into a storm with no shelter. Instead of quiet disrespect, Reed went for public displays. At industry events, fueled by alcohol, he would launch into loud, confrontational rants. What should have been light, celebratory gatherings quickly turned into scenes where everyone watched him dominate the space. Goldie, caught in the middle of this chaos, had no option but to endure the uncomfortable spotlight he forced on her. His behavior didn't reflect strength. It reflected how some men thrived on chaos, while others, especially women, were expected to smile through the spectacle. After one humiliation too many, Goldie drew another silent boundary. She wouldn't engage again. Reed's outbursts became the emblem of what she refused to normalize. Loud disrespect paired with unchecked privilege. Goldie Hawn's story isn't filled with dramatic confrontations or gossip-fueled scandals. What makes it powerful is how she reacted. She chose to walk away. Each difficult man on her hidden list wasn't just someone who wronged her, they were reminders of what she refused to tolerate. Instead of feeding egos or chasing revenge, she quietly protected her dignity. That pattern defined her career. She showed that strength comes not from shouting, but from deciding what energy belongs in your life. Protecting your peace isn't weakness, it's strategy. And that strategy is a lesson every industry could still stand to learn.